going on, ladies and DeGents? Happy Memorial Day weekend here in 2024. This is the Distinguished DeGents podcast, your home for Maryland gambling. I am one half of the Distinguished DeGents. I am Steve, Big Bucks, a beta, and joining me live today on this great holiday, it is my co-host. It is the one and only Jason Money Mansman. Mansman, it's been a quiet off season from you, my man. Give the people an update into your life. What has been going on, brother?
Well, we back in terms of betting wise. Had a very good UFC card last week, 4-0, headlined by my Mansman special win, Vanessa Demopoulos, plus 310.
Woo!
Been a good couple of betting weeks, but I've been slow, and it's good to be back and getting into some NFL futures today. So
yes, sir. And as far as we go, I put the video out. I had that big NCAA tournament hit a while ago. It was like a couple $100 hit off of a very small same game parlay plus bet. Hit a couple NBA. I've actually gone up I want to say it's been up like 7 or 8 units. I don't know if I've done the math correctly. That's the only reason I can't give a significant number. But I've gone up a good significant amount of units just from the off season, from the betting. Lately, I have slowed down, though. But it's Memorial Day. It's past the draft. You guys we saw this last year. It's Memorial Day. It's NFL futures time. And Money Mansman, give a recap for the folks. Why is now the true football betting season at the beginning compared to folks who like to bet on the draft?
Well, it's one of those things where the draft is, back in the day, at least a few years ago, the draft was where all the sharps made a lot of money. Unfortunately, the books, they're just making it a lot harder with the draft. They're taking a lot of the bets off the board. They're keeping the limits very low. Some books don't even take draft bets anymore. So it's becoming sort of harder and harder to win the draft. And this is really the time to sort of get on the proverbial money train. Because if you think about it, as the dog days of summer approach and we get into NFL preseason, the closer you get to the season, the more and more public money is going to come in. And even some of these future lines, let's be honest, the real pros, not like us who are semi, the real pros, literally, those numbers come out, the NFL schedule comes out, they've already got all their bets in. We'll talk about a couple of the ones that have been moving, but yeah, now's really the time. You really want to bet these futures early. Because if you wait till a week before the season starts, you're not going to be getting good numbers.
Well, even then, and as we've noticed before in the past, waiting till mid-June, thinking you're getting ahead of the game, you've already lost significant odds. You could have gotten things that were plus 100, plus 120. Now you're looking at a minus 110, minus 105, maybe minus 108. Kind of get lucky, but not really. It's timing is of the essence when it comes to futures betting. And the other rule too, by the way, folks, and I am a big proponent of this, futures betting is when you look at your true bankroll. You look at how much you can actually significantly win or lose. And if you're a stockbroker or if you're into finance, this will make sense to you guys. But if not, you want to build essentially a portfolio. You don't want to stake all your futures bets into one big thing and then just toy around with everything else. You really want to do some diversification. You really want to look at the time now that the schedules have been released. For me personally, waiting till the schedule is released is a big gamble, but I think it's one that you kind of necessarily have to wait for, because taking futures truthfully on the unknown, you're not really getting much of an advantage against the books. Usually by the time the books put them out before the scheduling release, they have some sort of an idea of where the season's going to go anyways. So you're not getting much of an advantage. So you might as well wait.
My personal thinking is you want to swim downstream early, meaning a lot of times the sharps are going to be, they're going to be on the right side of the early futures numbers. So you kind of want to follow them. But me, it's really the futures bets. If you want to play futures close to the season, be prepared to go against the stream, especially, and we see it all the time. Those teams that go 4-0 in the preseason, or now 3-0 in the preseason that everyone hyped on. Like, that's really the way if you're going to play futures late. Because if you go and you're trying to, like, for example, you go early in the season, you're trying to fade the Steelers, like, that number is going to be 7.5 by the time the season starts. So if you're going with the public side on some of these and you're going to wait till the end, you're going to be dummy money getting cracked.
And also the correlated idea with that too. If you look at an early futures number and you don't like it, sometimes it does behoove you to wait. And for example, like you said, with that Steelers, let's say if it's a 7.5, if you don't like the 7.5 and you already know the sharps are going to bet the over on it, you know that number is going to jump to 8.5 and you're kind of on the opposite side. It's okay to wait in certain circumstances, but you really have to be smart and logical with your betting strategies there. Like, you can't do that with every team. But there are certain teams where if you already see that the public is moving up and moving a number in one direction or the other, you can always learn to fade and bet against it. And we're going to get into some of that here as we talk into some of these divisions, because there's actually 2 teams where I'm actually going to go do that, but we'll get into that as we go throughout the episode. But like as we said with the offseason, I do want to mention just to start, Monty Management, I do want to congratulate you personally just on the new job. I know that was not something that we completely advertised, but as you stated, you wanted to bet more aggressively. So again, congratulations on the new job. I don't know if you really want to talk about it too much, but what's going to be your betting strategy personally, just with these NFL futures and later into the regular season?
Yeah, it's hard. I'm a little bit more conservative on futures because I tend to not be the best future better. If anyone watched my MLB video, you will see that it hasn't been a very good. It hasn't been very good with the MLB futures. Unfortunately, it hasn't been a season for me thus far. But yeah, I mean, what I'm thinking is really, and it's hard. You're really trying to look for, like I was telling you before, a few good bets that I feel really confident in, as opposed to, you always want to find that balance between diversification and just, am I going to be betting like 15 futures bets and getting, 6 out of 15 right? Like, I would rather get 5 out of 7 right than, 8 out of 15, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. It's not about volume. It's about careful selection.
Yeah, quality over quantity.
Yeah. Whereas me, I'm definitely more of a diversification bettor, but I am also like strength of betting conscious, if that makes sense. Like, if there's a play I really, really like, I'm not afraid to lay down a couple units. Whereas if I look at a play and I'm unsure, the first thing I'm going to do is look at a couple different angles. For example, if it's a win total and I don't like the number, well, maybe I go look at a market that's, make or miss playoffs. If I can get odds that are, like, if I'm leaning towards the under and I can get better odds at them missing the playoffs, then that might be the angle to play. And that's a very key note to pay attention with in these futures bets, that you could possibly get the same thing if you're thinking about the team makes sense. If I don't know if a team's going to win 8 or 9 games, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs regardless, and I can get better odds at that, then why am I going to bet on the totals when I could just bet for an overall outcome? And at the same time, too, that gives you, either way you play it, it gives you hedge opportunities. I mentioned this 2 years ago, but I'll mention this again. Sometimes your division winner plays will literally come down to the last game. And ways you can go about that is you can either double down or you can hedge. And especially if the team you're hedging against has points, there's a chance for you to double up either way. So when you make these plays, consider down the line, where do you think these teams are going to be laying at towards the end of the season, towards the middle season? Injuries I know are hard to account for, but there really is a lot you have to think about when you make these futures bets. And you have to be prepared to take measures later down the line, not necessarily cashing out, but you're looking at hedging, you're looking at, ways to bet against it while at the same time trying to bet with it.
Yeah. And also be aware of in-season futures betting. I I remember the one I had was like Cleveland Browns 2 years ago, where their win total just got ballooned after they were like a 500 team, and they basically had them winning like 5 of their last 6 games. So there are opportunities sometimes to also bet futures in season. And I would prefer you either bet them now, or once the season starts, you'll get some teams where it's like they'll get off to bad starts and they'll bury their head in the sand. Or sometimes the futures market tends to react slower than, maybe what like the individual games. So you'll go.
Yeah.
And I always say week 2 is my favorite week because that's overreaction Sunday, where week 1, everyone overreacts. But sometimes the difference is the futures markets underreact. So that's a way to sort of, be able to profit there as well.
Exactly. But with that said, this episode, we are primarily focusing on the AFC conference for the NFL. Next week, we will not be getting into the NFC. It's going to be UFC 303. We're going to get into it with our boy Spaceman Sam. We're going to go through that card. And then after 303, the week after, we will follow up and go into the NFC Futures episode. So you guys get 3 weeks of content straight from the distinguished DeGents here. And one more tidbit. We are not only live right now on YouTube, we are currently live on X at x.com/DeGents podcast. Make sure you like and follow us if you are enjoying this content. Despite the 0 followers we have right now watching, that is okay. Hopefully you guys catch us later once we throw some tags in, get the algorithm going. Money management, we got 4 AFC divisions we need to get through. I know the text message I got was, and I quote, "We are going to fight." So with that said, if you want to fight, I have a feeling we're going to.
Yep.
Do we start with the North? Where do you want to start here? I'll defer this one to you. Where are we starting?
Ooh. Do we save our divisions for last? Do we want to start off boring, or do we want to go into fireworks?
We can mix it up. We could start with one of our divisions first and then go into the other, then back to you, or we could save it for the end. So tell you what, let's you want to start with the East or the West? We could do that.
I guess we could start with the East. I think we're going to fight about the East.
All right, let's get into it. We're going to start here, folks, at the AFC East. All right, and starting off, and for the first time ever, we have 3 potential picks to give you guys for each division. We are going to give you a division winner. We are guaranteed to give you both an over and an underplay in terms of the win totals. However, we are now introducing make playoffs odds and missing playoffs odds for each division. We may or may not pick a winner from each one. However, I have 1 winner and 1 loser in terms of playoffs for each conference. We may add more as we go through the episode. But starting off in the AFC East, it is Mansman's Buffalo Bills in the lead to win the division in the AFC East. It's plus 160, 10.5 win total. Miami in second, plus 185 to win the division, 9.5 over under and their win total. The Jets tied at 9.5 wins as well, plus 210 to win the division. And the lowly New England Patriots, 24-1 odds to win the division. Over under is 4.5 wins. And I was going to say I had their make playoffs goal. So Buffalo's minus 168, Miami minus 140, Jets minus 148, New England plus 920 to make the playoffs, Buffalo plus 136, Miami plus 114, Jets plus 120, New England minus 2,000 to miss the playoffs. All right, this is your division. I'm going to defer to you first. I already have a feeling we're going to fight, but let's start with the division winner. There's 4 teams. I know Buffalo is your team. They've won the division. I believe it's in the last 5 years now.
Yep.
Maybe 4. Is Buffalo going to repeat once again?
Going for 6 straight this year? They're not getting it done this year, buddy.
No.
No, we're not. No.
No?
Buffalo. And ready? Here's why we're going to fight. Your division winner, and I also think they're going to go over their 9.5 win total. So, no, I don't have the Patriots. The Miami Dolphins are going to win the AFC East this year. And they're going to go over their win total. And they're going to make the playoffs, obviously. Miami Dolphins. Look, this is the forgotten team. Remember, they were actually ahead in the division, and the Bills won by beating them. They got like the tiebreaker and got the division last year on the final game of the season. I don't know, man. I'm afraid. Well, I'll save this one. I'm afraid for this Bills team this year. I think there's going to be a lot of frustrating NFL Sundays for me. And I think everybody's talking about the Jets. The Dolphins are still going to be at least similar to what they are. I think they lost that big defensive tackle, but they're still going to have Tua. They're still going to have Hill, as far as I'm aware. Like,
Yeah.
It's still pretty much the same team, and they were good last year. I think this could be the year for them. I really do. I think the Jets are getting a lot of love, but I'd go Dolphins to win the division. I think they're due. I think they probably should have won last year. I think you could make the argument that in the regular season they were a better team than Buffalo, and I think this could be the year. And I hate to say, you know me, I hate the fucking Dolphins. But I think this is the year they get it done. So I'm going over Dolphins. Actually, over Dolphins, and Dolphins to make the playoffs are probably my favorite bets in the East. Like, I could see Buffalo eking out the division again because that's just what, like the Bills, it's hard to go against them considering they've won 5 straight. But I could see Miami with 10, 11 wins making the playoffs. So.
Okay, so before I move on to my pick, let me give you one more tidbits. This is the pickups that each team has gotten, but we'll go with Buffalo first. So Buffalo did get Mitch Trubisky back. They also ended up getting Curtis Samuel, wide receiver, defensive tackle Austin Johnson. They picked up Marquez Valdez-Scantling, wide receiver Matt Collins, La'el Collins, right tackle. Keon Coleman was their second round pick because they traded back in the first.
Yeah, he ran out 4.6 in the combine.
Yeah, you all picked up safety Cole Bishop from Utah, and your new defensive coordinator Bobby Babbitt. Not sure how you feel about that. Here's what Miami did instead.
Why'd you have to start with Mitch Trubisky? Why'd you have to start with that, you jackass?
I mean, you guys signed him in free agency, so I mean, I thought that was a good backup. Yeah. He was a good backup for you guys before. You know, glad to see he remembered.
Yeah, he was a good backup because he sat his ass on the bench and never came in. But that's what he needs to. Trust me, if Mitch Trubisky's playing this year, it's over.
All right, so Miami got a new defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio's out. Anthony Weaver in. They signed linebacker Jordan Brooks, center Aaron Brewer, cornerback Kendall Fuller, tight end Jonnu Smith, outside linebacker Shaq Barrett, one of their bigger signings, in my opinion. They also ended up getting Odell Beckham Jr. for a year. They stole from the Buffalo Bills Jordan Poyer and Siran Neal, safeties. They drafted Chop Robinson from PSU, offensive tackle Patrick Paul from Houston, and edge rusher Muhammad Kamaru from Colorado State University. He was first team overall for the Mountain West. So very solid pickups there. And for me, I am actually on the side of Money Mansman. I had Miami picked as the division winner. I had them as my over, but for very, very different reasons, because I think you guys have to remember Miami struggles against Buffalo. This is not a team that has had much success against Josh Allen. So the question you kind of have to start with is are they going to get over that hump against Josh Allen? But no offense, I think the Miami Dolphins did a lot to improve their roster in the sense of like getting the depth that was missing. Vic Fangio leaving, I think, is an improvement. Last year, I know we were all high on him, but there were times where the Miami Dolphins defense just looked very susceptible against real shit opponents, and they just looked like they didn't know what they were doing half the time. The big victory for the Dolphins was against the Denver Broncos, where they went 70-20. But people sometimes forget, too, Vic Fangio used to be the coach. And he took over for Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator. So no wonder that game was probably a blowout. But there was just times the Miami defense just looked very questionable. It was never a question about what Tua Tagovailoa or Tyreek Hill it was just could Miami's defense step up in times. And with this new defensive coordinator, I think they have a better opportunity to make that leap, like Mansman alluded to. I just generally, like, you look at the pickups each team did and the draft picks, Buffalo has just completely regressed. And I'm not excluding Stephon Diggs. I think that's a big loss. The problem is they've done literally nothing to fucking replace him. Like, I don't know what the fuck the Bills think they're doing, trying to go to a run-first offense under Joe Brady. Like, no offense, that maybe worked with Joe Mixon, and even the Bengals learned, like, you have to move on at some point. So are you just going to quarterback scramble Josh Allen? Is going to be West Coast play action every fucking play? You're going to get it to Curtis Samuel? Like, that's your new number one? Keon Coleman?
Thank you so much. I've heard people, oh, yeah, we got a new number one, Curtis Samuel. And I'm like, are you bro, this guy was a number 3 on the fucking Commanders. Like, bro, he's like a decent slot receiver. Josh Allen will make him look good. He'll have a career year. But Curtis Samuel's not a number 1.
Here's my thinking. If the Bills are doing this shit, they're basically saying the receiver position is useless, which if you look at last year, that's not really too far off. I mean, it's not like Diggs did shit. It's not like Gabe Davis had like back-to-back fucking performances. He had a once-in-a-blue moon showing. Thanks for trading him in fantasy, by the way.
I honestly don't mind. I don't mind Gabe Davis and fucking Steph Diggs being gone. Like, Steph Diggs, he came up small so many times. I'm glad he's in Houston. Good luck to you there, brother. Like, I was out on the Stephon Diggs business. Like, been good.
Yeah.
Good time.
So, yeah, and I think two things could be true. I think the Bills getting rid of Stephon Diggs was the smartest thing they could do as a franchise. At the same time, I don't think they've done a fucking thing to fix the detriment that they put themselves in by letting the Stephon Diggs go. Keon Coleman, I mean, if he's going to end up being your number one, like that says a lot about the state that this Bills team is in.
That reminds me of Gabe Davis, a big, slow oaf that I'm wondering if he can get any separation.
Well, can they catch the ball? Can we start with that? Could the receivers catch the ball?
Well, what concerns me, too, is like Curtis Samuel in the slot. You like your 2 tight end sets with Dalton Kincaid. Like, so.
Which I think this is like the key aspect of like the Bills are turning into like a classic West Coast offense, which is fine, except the other problem is you let go of half your fucking defense so you could keep a fucking 90-year-old Von Miller. Jordan Poyer, gone. Why? I always do this and I always forget fucking names, but like half your fucking defense gone. That was actual studs. And you're paying a 90-year-old Von Miller, a 90-year-old wife beater Von Miller.
That's got to be one of the biggest misses in Bills history right now. That's top 10. Like the Von Miller signing is catastrophic. And actually, you know what? While we're talking about it, okay, I'm going to give you my bold pick here. Bills to miss the playoffs plus 136.
You played that too. You played it too.
I feel like with that, if the Bills have a bad year, I feel like it's going to be like bad. Like I see this team either finding a way to maybe win the division or literally being bad enough where they're like a 500 team. Maybe Josh Allen gets banged up trying to be Superman. Like, I don't know. To me, it's like that's a pretty interesting sort of saver bet. Like, plus 136, I'd flick a chip on that, to tell you the truth.
I can't fault you there. I thought about flicking a chip on there. I played 2 units on this instead. Give me the Jets to miss the playoffs, plus 120. First of all, you actually get better odds at that than you do at their over-under total at 9.5. I think it's barely by that. It's like plus 116. If you go to the parlay option, you might get it at 120 on FanDuel, by the way, which is where I'm getting these odds, which is weird. They have like a make and miss, like yes or no option, but then they have like the make and miss playoffs where you could parlay them, and you either get or lose odds based on where you selected. So just be very mindful of that, folks. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers is coming back.
Playoffs with 9 wins, so I endorse your thinking there.
Well, first of all, 9 wins in this division. Forget the conference. this division, 9 wins probably doesn't get it for you. Unless you think 3 teams from the AFC East are going, the Jets are not making the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is coming off like one of the biggest ACL injuries of all time. After missing a season, and after he came off one of his worst seasons ever professionally. But we're going to give the Jets 10 wins. Let's forget the fucking degeneracy that is the New York Jets organization. Let's forget the Athletic article that came out basically showing how fucking Nathaniel Hackett was more useless than a fucking roll of toilet paper in a porta pot, you know. Let's fucking forget that Zach Wilson literally quit and then had to come back because basically he was told you have no choice or you won't get a position somewhere else. You literally made Zach Wilson quit. Yeah. But Aaron Rodgers coming back just fixed it. Again, this is the same argument we went through last year. Aaron Rodgers is just going to fix all of the Jets' problems all of a sudden? No fucking way.
I'm going to get into this with another team as well. You have to believe basically that Zach Wilson was one of the worst quarterbacks in NFL history. And if Rodgers is even 33% of what he was, that's an upgrade. And the Jets defense is going to continue to be what the Jets defense was, at least for most of the year. I don't know if I'd buy that. I don't know.
Here you go. You want to know what the Jets did in the offseason? If you thought the Bills are bad, get ready, folks. Tyrod Taylor, quarterback. Jonas Simpson, guard. Mike Williams of the LA Chargers, their new wide receiver too. He's going to miss half the season as well.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle, Javon Kinlaw. Tyron Smith, left tackle from Atlanta, I think. Olamayu Fashanu was their number 1 draft pick. Wide receiver Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. They also drafted Jordan Travis from FSU, quarterback of the year for the ACC. They're already planning on moving on from Rodgers, but we're not hearing that.
Well, not with Travis was a late round pick.
True, but
they have a lot of offensive linemen now. I don't know how good. Tyron Smith is good, except he's hurt all the time.
Yeah, but it's MetLife Stadium. Everybody's going to get hurt in that fucking stadium. Let's be honest.
My concern is more their defense. They lost Bryce Huff. They did get Hassan Reddick. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if the Jets defense could continue to be what they have been for the past 2 years. So I don't know. Even if their offense improves a little, which, like you said, I'm just not sure. I have a feeling the Jets could be good. I just don't know what to expect from their offense and if their offense is going to be just not good anymore. I think a lot of here's what I'll say. Maybe I'll put it this way, and then I'll stop talking.
Okay.
I think a lot of the Jets defense, some of the success they had was the teams went in and knew Zach Wilson's the quarterback on the other side. We're just not going to lose the game. And I think sometimes maybe that helped the Jets defense look better than it was. That's just a theory. But
I think that works up through maybe November. I not that I'm infamous for this, but the New York Jets cycle was September is disappointment. October is Zach Wilson somehow shows up and wins games. November was when he starts losing everything. And by December, everybody on the team quits. And I think if you're on the path of we're just not going to let Zach Wilson win, I think that works for the tail end of the season, but now you can't use the Zach Wilson excuse. It is Aaron Rodgers now. But here's my reasoning with that. You look at his front 5 in terms of the schedule. He has to go to San Francisco. They then have to go back on the road to Tennessee, who they're a wild bunch where you never know what could fucking happen. I'm not saying they're going to lose that game per se. I'm just saying you can never know. Then they have to host the Patriots at home in primetime 4 days later, Thursday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers on Thursday Night Football might be good, but the Jets haven't been good against the Patriots except for the last fucking game. Then they host the Broncos, which might be a revenge tour game where the Broncos are going to look to fucking beat the shit out of them. Then you got Vikings, Bills, Steelers. Again, all three of those games, primetime games. I just think that the Jets are going to like have road exhaustion and primetime exhaustion really fucking quick. And I'm not saying the Jets will be the worst team in the league, but I could just see them being they could underperform very fast.
My concern would be in those first 4 weeks, how many injuries are there? Because their schedule isn't hard. It's more, are they going to
They're just above 500 in terms of strength of schedule. They literally are middle of the pack.
Yeah, I'd just be concerned that they're going to pick up some early injuries with all the traveling. And then they have that stretch where they play Minnesota overseas and then play the Bills in primetime, Monday Night Football.
Yep, and then Sunday Night Football, they have to go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jets are literally slated for like the most primetime games in October through November. Like literally from September 19th to November 17th. There is 6 primetime games.
Aaron Rodgers over under 10. 10 and a half, over under 10 and a half, Aaron Rodgers. Games played.
I bet under. Because I think if the Jets start losing real bad, they're going to bench him.
I just don't know, like, on that turf, and unless the Jets' offensive line is, like, stout, which, I don't know, they haven't seemed to get it right up to this point. I don't know why I'm assuming they're going to get it right this time.
What I could see personally happening with the Jets, what I could see is Aaron Rodgers comes back fully healthy, but by 3 games, he's out with a thumb injury, or he's out with like a dislocated ankle, something minor that has nothing to do with his ACL, but he's just gonna like kind of like Russell Wilson last year in a sense, where like he was more banged up than we realized, but he played it off as other things, and he would just miss a game or 2 here and there, and it just makes the difference. Which is why I'm also taking the Jets under 9.5 win total. I just don't. The problem is with this Jets organization, like forgetting the players, I don't want to rely on Robert Saleh to have a winning season.
Yeah, he could lose them at least 2 games during the year. Like, he's good.
Well, and also Nathaniel Bumfuck Hackett, like Nate Hackjob as an OC with Aaron Rodgers. Like, do we forget like the fucking 3 running plays in a row followed by a bullshit slant pat? Like, have we forgotten like his methodology just doesn't exist? And again, folks, go look at the Athletic article with fucking the New York Jets and how Nathaniel Hackett just has no fucking clue how to game prep whatsoever. He doesn't know what he's doing. The Jets are just so dysfunctional that, like, I don't know why they are getting so much love.
I think people are expecting, and then we'll move on from the East.
Yeah.
Although New England Patriots is my underplay in terms of wins.
Wow.
I don't think the Patriots are going to be good. Although it's hard. It's kind of like a forced play, but just that really depends on is Drake May any good or not. Like if he's mediocre, I think the Patriots are like one of the worst teams in football. But obviously if Drake May's good, that's going to be bad. But to wrap it up on the Jets, I just think people are assuming that like you're getting MVP Rodgers. And part of the problem is we didn't even see what Rodgers was going to look like before the injury. Like he got hurt so quick. We don't even know. Are we getting MVP Aaron Rodgers or are we getting Aaron Rodgers that last year in Green Bay where I was hemorrhaging money betting on the Packers every week?
Well, you know what? Think of it this way. You got Aaron Rodgers his last year where he sucked. And let's call it what it was. He sucked. He was not good.
Yeah, he was
He was a mediocre quarterback. And then he tore his ACL. Now we're going to bet him to have a winning season?
Basically to be like MVP Aaron Rodgers again.
And by the way, in the NFC episode, there's going to be a very similar quarterback I'm going to have a lot of similar sentiments about. We'll get into that at that point. But with that said, like we're going to bet on a Aaron Rodgers to just come back and be the Aaron Rodgers of old. Like, no offense. I just think that is the most asinine thing ever. Like, he can do all the ayahuasca trips he wants to do. I don't think he can even fix the Jets organization. And that's going to be the stain on his legacy. It won't be the other bullshit, even through COVID. It'll be the fact that he tried to fix the Jets with Nate Hackjob. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Over 9.5 for Miami, just default play. I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to need to win at least 10 to get that. So
yeah. So we didn't fight as much. Okay.
I was ready to fight. I was ready to go, and it didn't happen.
We've done these too much. We think the same way now. It's just so brutal.
All right. You know what? Let's go to the division that I have no clue about. We're going to go jump to the AFC South here. So, with that said, AFC South division winners, you got Houston at plus 105, Jacksonville plus 270, Indianapolis plus 330, Tennessee Titans 8-1 odds to win the division. Win totals are as follows: Houston 9.5, Jacksonville and Indianapolis 8.5, Tennessee 6.5%. Odds to make the playoffs are for the Houston Texans minus 192, plus 126 for Jacksonville, plus 138 for Indy, plus 470 for the Tennessee Titans. Odds to miss the playoffs: Houston plus 154, the only dog. Jacksonville minus 154, Indy minus 170, Tennessee minus 700 odds. I guess it's my turn here. This is sort of the default play in terms of the division, but it's Houston or nothing here to win the division. And only because I'm going to get good value at them to do it. If you really look at the schedules here and you look at where the state of these teams are, Houston just kind of seems to be in an all-in mode where they're picking up everyone they possibly can. The Stephon Diggs signing was big. But the key for them also, which I think is very underrated, they picked up Joe Mixon. They finally have the running back that I think has been missing in terms of this offense, where they can actually start making a difference. And I think they're going to be a lot more of an explosive offense than what we were used to.
And that's a good backfield split, Singletary and Mixon. That could be.
I think that's going to be very, very dangerous for this Houston Texans team. My only concern would be a sophomore slump for C.J. Stroud. Is he just going to take a back seat? And is he going to just start sucking all of a sudden out of nowhere? That would be my only concern. But Jacksonville was like my number 2. But not only do I not trust Cinderella boy fucking Trevor Lawrence, I don't like their schedule. I don't like the way it's set up. I think there's a lot of bad opportunities left and right. It just doesn't seem like they're going to get the advantages they need to kind of take this back over. They also, I'm trying to look here, they have to travel. I think they're like top 10 in miles travel on the road this year. 22,075 miles they have to travel on the road. They are like top 10. So like, I just don't think them on the road. They've never been good. So that has to go.
Pretty difficult. Yeah, they got a pretty tough at Miami and Buffalo. And God, they have 3 road games: Miami, Buffalo, Houston, all on the road. 3 of their first 4 games. Yikes. That is.
Like, I could see them going over to start the season. So Jacksonville's out. Too many unknowns with Tennessee. And it's kind of the same with the Indianapolis Colts. But for Tennessee, like Will Levis, I'm not sold yet. I would love for them to be my dark horse, but I just can't get on that train. And with the Colts, the issue is Anthony Richardson. We saw him in 2 games, albeit he did beat the Texans in the 1 game he did play in. There's too many unknowns. And with the Colts having Joe Flacco as a backup, like, we know what Joe Flacco is.
Yeah, but don't Houston and Indy always have that little weird thing where
they do. Yeah. And I think, like, if you're gonna pick a dark horse, you go Indy, but
nope.
For me, it's like, I think the Texans just have enough of an advantage this year. I think it's them or nothing. So Houston's my division winner, but I'm not like, this is my least confident play.
This would be one where I'd be tempted, like, after the first 4 games, if Jacksonville's like close to the division lead, maybe I would bet Jacksonville at that time just to take a chance at like 4-1, 5-1.
Oh, sort of like what I did last year with Indy.
Yeah, like
where it came down to the last 3 games. I was like, Indy to win.
Yeah, that would be what I would try and do. But I mean, I don't know. I have a feeling Houston's going to go backwards. that was a really great rookie year from CJ Stroud, maybe the best rookie year ever. 90% of the time, he's going to be worse this year. And then I guess if he's still as good as he was last year, that's the 10% where I lose. But my best play here, Indianapolis Colts under 8.5. I mean, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Gardner Minshew is a serviceable quarterback. Anthony Richardson, to me, is not good. Like, I saw him play. I was not impressed. And I don't think this Colts team's that good. I think they got really lucky last year. I'm not sold on the Colts really at all. They have to play the AFC East, where 3 of the 4 teams I think are going to be dangerous sort of threats. I don't like this Indy team to finish above 500. So that's my best play in this division. Colts under.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not
so. So Colts under 8.5 wins.
I don't like Richardson. I don't think he's any good. I didn't see anything from him to tell me he was good. He ran around and got hurt. And what's going to happen this year? He's going to run around and get hurt. Their backup is Joe Flacco, I think, right?
Yeah, Joe Flacco.
But, okay, he had his Cinderella run last year. Is he really going to do that again with a team that doesn't have as good of a defense as the Browns did last year?
Money Management's best bet, Colts under 8.5 wins.
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
Love that play.
I was actually leaning on the over for the Colts only because I disagree with you on the Anthony Richardson take. And I'm not saying that because he's my current fantasy quarterback. I am saying that because I do think there's a lot of potential for him to be just good enough to be average in the terms of like the win-loss totals. I don't know if he's going to be the next like Michael Vick or anything like that, but I just think I've seen enough where I know he's probably better than Kyler Murray by this point in his career. I think he's better than half the backups in the league. I would argue he's better than Gardner Minshew, but no. I think with the Colts team, you saw what they did with Gardner Minshew, and they were able to be very successful. And I think if you have a quarterback that you think is better, they should be able to repeat that success. But I went a different direction here. I actually went under Jacksonville 8.5. They got a new defensive coordinator in Ryan Nielsen. No offense, but like their defense has not been that good for a long time. I don't think switching coordinators is going to make that much of a difference. They picked up Devin Duvernay and Gabe Davis in the offseason from wide receiver. They drafted Brian Thomas from LSU. Ronald Darby, cornerback, the ghost of Ronald Darby. Eric Armstead was the Jacksonville Jaguars' biggest pickup. So I have a feeling that like this one's going to be close, but I just, again, the fact of the matter is you have to rely on Trevor Lawrence. More often than not, he's not successful.
I think that's the problem. Like Jacksonville's just, you have no idea what you're getting from them. Like they're just the most inconsistent group. I just don't know what they are. I don't know.
I don't think Jacksonville even knows what they are. I think their owner, like Tony Khan, I just don't know what the fuck. I don't even know if he cares enough or if he's just like, fuck it, I have a football team. Yay. Like here.
I wish Tennessee had Mike Vrabel because I go over Tennessee.
Speaking of Tennessee, new head coordinator Brian Callahan, new offensive coordinator Nick Holtz. They picked up Denard Wilson, Lloyd Cushenberry on preseason. They also got Calvin Ridley from the Jags and Tyler Boyd and Tony Pollard. Backup Mason Rudolph. They drafted J.C. Latham from Alabama, offensive tackle. Nose tackle Devondre Sweat from Texas. Got a new cornerback, Chidobe Awuzie, and I want to say he was from Penn State, but I could be wrong. And good transition, by the way, another 2-unit play. I'm going over 6.5 for the Tennessee Titans. Over 6.5 plus 110.
I was tempted to do that, so I could see it.
So every year I have a dark horse team where I just think that like a lot of people just talk down on. They don't really give them too much credit. And now, to be fair, I think it was Tennessee on the road. I can't remember if it was on the road or if it was at home, but they have like one of the worst road records last year. Where they only had like one. They've only had like I think 3 wins on the road in the last 2 seasons. I think that this Titans team, the way they're built, I think they could get at least 2 or 3. And if they even break even on the home games, I think they'll just squeak over this win total. I just think 6.5 is like a value number. I think it's a little too low, but Will Levis had moments where he shined. There was just a lot more moments where he didn't, but that was also his rookie season. He came in late. I think seeing him in a full season with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, I think there's a lot more to look forward to here in this sense than there really is to really look down on. But again, this division I'm not the most confident on. But Mansman, what's your over and under plays?
Yeah. Like I said, I think I'm going to go with Tennessee, like you said. I don't want to go over Houston. I don't want to play Jacksonville really at all yet. So over Tennessee, under to Indianapolis, which I really like. I think Indianapolis.
Titans went
2, but not in this division.
Titans went 1-7 last year on the road. They were very bad. That's what it was. But looking at the schedule,
like the coach, it's just about if they have a coach, they got a chance. If they don't have a coach, they won't have a chance.
Well, we'll go through this. We'll go through the 2 that I think they're going to hit. But on the road, they got the Bears. Then they got to go to Miami, Buffalo, Detroit back-to-back. Then they go to the LA Chargers. They got to go to Houston. Then they go to Washington, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville.
Okay, so
between Washington, Chicago, the Chargers, and depending on how the Bills are by that time, and Washington, I think I said that already. Like, I realistically think that they could get at least 2 or 3, and I think that's going to make the key difference here.
I don't think they're winning in Buffalo, but or Miami for that matter. No, I think Washington, the Chargers.
Chicago, week 1.
One of those division games are always a possibility, and then Chicago, they could beat Chicago.
Yeah, I think there's more opportunity. So it's a lean. Like I said, not my favorite. I don't think I have. Oh, wild card make playoffs. This is where I deferred. I had the Colts making the playoffs plus 138.
Nope.
I totally forget. I'm not gonna lie though. I totally forgot the logic though. But I think what it came down to was I think they could beat Jacksonville. I think if they could split against the Texans, which I really do believe they could, that could be the breaker. But they also played the NFC North this year, and this is a division. It's a non-conference division, but it's one of the weaker times in the NFC North than lately. Like, you have to remember, Minnesota lost Kirk Cousins. You have Jordan Love, who, let's be honest, I know we've been singing his praises lately, and especially closer to, the postseason last year, but there were times we said this guy fucking sucks. We were wondering why this guy had a job. The Colts, I'm bigger on Anthony Richardson. I think he could beat the Jags. I think he's already beaten the Texans once. I don't see why he couldn't do it again. The Titans team, if you're down on them, which, you could even be good on the Titans, but I think they could split that series. So, I know division win total odds haven't come out. I might play that too for the Colts. I just think that if the Colts could repeat at least some of their success from last year, they're going to get at least the same record, if not slightly better. But there are other opponents too. They got the Broncos. They got the Patriots. They have the Giants, the Vikings. I could see them actually getting a couple games away, and I could just see them squeaking through.
Yeah, it's just weird. To me, Indianapolis is one of those teams where, I expect to beat them if they're on my schedule. I don't think they're good, but let's just, we'll
That's
see,
fair.
Buddy. We'll see. I'm not going to go more on that, but.
All right. So moving on, we got through the East, we got through the South, we got the North, and we got the West coming up next. So I think the North is the hardest, so I would vote to go to the West. But Mansman, do you have a preference?
We could go to the West if you want.
Let's go to the West. All right, AFC West. Kansas City is favored to win the division, minus 230 of fucking course. Next up is the Chargers, plus 350. The Vegas Raiders, plus 900. Broncos, 20-1 to win the division. Win totals go Kansas City, 11.5. Chargers, 8.5. Vegas, 6.5. Broncos, 5.5. Odds to make the playoffs for the Chiefs are minus 520. It's kind of a fucking given there. Chargers are breaking even at minus 105. Vegas Raiders, 3-1 plus 310. Broncos 5-1 plus 540 to make the playoffs. Odds to miss the playoffs, the Chiefs are 3.5 to 1 plus 360. Chargers minus 118. Vegas minus 420. Broncos minus 850. Got through that ticker in a good time. All right, Mansman.
It's your division. You should go first.
Oh, boy.
Go out of order. I'll go first with the North.
All right. Look, let's. I don't really think we need to go into this, but I'll give you the highlights of everyone's pickups. So the Chiefs got Marquise Brown, wide receiver, and if you don't know who Marquise Brown is, you probably heard him by the name of Hollywood Brown, but there ain't nothing Hollywood about him. So there you go. Backup quarterback Carson Wentz. They drafted Xavier Worthy in that trade with Buffalo. They also drafted Kingsley Swamatia from BYU. I'm sure I fucked his name up. The Chargers have a whole reorganization shakeup. It's Jim Harbaugh head coach, Greg Roman, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens, offensive coordinator for the Chargers now. They took Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins at running back from free agency. They picked up Will Dissly, a tight end. Offensive outside linebacker Bud Dupree from the Titans. Christian Fulton, cornerback. Wide receiver DJ Chark. Denzel Perryman from the inside linebacker. Center Bradley Bozeman and tight end Hayden Hurst were their free agency pickups. The Las Vegas Raiders had also an interesting one. They took Luke Getsy at offensive coordinator this year. In that turn, they also took Gardner Minshew off free agency. Their big pickup was Christian Wilkinson from Miami, defensive tackle, to line up side by side with Max Crosby. Their new running back, they lost Josh Jacobs, but they got Alexander Madison. That's right, folks. Alexander Madison is the new number one. Jalen Guyton at wide receiver and Michael Gallup. Tight end Brock Bowers was their number one pick. Guard Jackson Powers Johnson was their number two from Georgia, star center from that team. Linebacker Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State University was also their third round pick. And the Broncos, who do the Broncos get in fucking place of Russell Wilson? Well, Zach Wilson, the MILF hunter.
Oh, you got John Franklin Myers too, though.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. We also drafted Bo Nix, which I actually think was the smartest thing they did. But no, who do we get in the free agency? Well, we took Josh Reynolds instead of Jerry Jeudy.
I'd rather
okay. Okay. Safety Brandon Jones, outside linebacker Joe Ellis was their draft pick from Utah. And they drafted Bo Nix's receiver, Troy Franklin, also from Oregon. That was their big pickups. Okay.
What obviously is you have to step back because of the bad contract with Russell Wilson. You need to recoup.
Remember when I've said before, like the Broncos just make terrible, terrible picks that fuck them up in the future? This is like the consequence of that. The problem was, it's not that we drafted Bo Nix. I will say, I think the Broncos, given their position, given where they were at, given what they could have done, they made the 100% right move. They took the quarterback that was available in the spot that they were in, despite the fact that it was a reach, despite the fact they probably could have moved back, got something out of it, and got the same guy. They knew who they wanted. They didn't fuck around. They went and got who they wanted. I'm okay with that. I'm actually even okay with the fact they picked up Zach Wilson, because they basically gave up like a future sixth.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
him out there to get killed the first 4 weeks.
Now, why we didn't do this last year, I don't know. Maybe the Jets wanted more. Maybe Denver was more in a position where they were okay with fucking Jarrett Stidham as a backup. They didn't think Zach Wilson would make a difference. I could live with that argument too. That's fine. We let Jerry Jeudy go, which I wasn't the biggest fan of him, so I could live with that. Again, the problem is my replacement is a Josh Reynolds, who's just as inconsistent, who's just as irrelevant as a receiver. And now you have you're literally saying it's a three-way quarterback battle with Jarrett Stidham, Bo Nix, and Zach Wilson.
God, I want it to be Zach Wilson so fucking bad. I really am rooting for Zach. I really want Zach.
God, I cannot stand the state that the Broncos are in right now. And I'm still picking them on the over. I'm going over 5.5 here.
You must really think that Bo Nix is going to come in and.
I think number one, Bo Nix is going to win the starting job. It is contingent. I will say that. Like, I saw 2 games with Jarrett Stidham, and I had enough. You saw that personally. Like, I had enough of Jarrett Stidham after 2 fucking games.
I was going to say, you're going to get mad this year. Like, you guys are going to be terrible. There's no reason to get mad.
Yeah, no, we'll still get mad. We'll still get mad. I'll probably be more mad if it's Bo Nixon and not Jarrett Stidham. Because, like, the problem is, if you start Jarrett Stidham or Zach Wilson and we're terrible, we're going to get mad because we're going to say start Bo Nix. Then when Bo Nix is bad is when it's like, okay, we really do suck. But if you start Bo Nix first, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be, why the fuck didn't Jarrett Stidham? At least he was there for a year. Why aren't you starting Zach Wilson? At least he had experience. Like, you can't win as a Broncos fan.
I want Zach Wilson literally to start game 1 and throw like 3 touchdown passes because it'll just be the funniest shit.
Look, I already have a Wilson jersey number 3. If he just takes that number, like, it makes my life easier and I don't have to burn it. And by the way, can we fucking say this? The Broncos, they overhyped these new fucking jerseys. And they are literal, like, geometrical trash. These jerseys fucking suck. Ooh, we put 5180 on the, like, okay, fuck, what are you, the Nuggets now? You trying to imitate the fucking Nuggets success? That's how far you fucking dropped to?
I was going to say,
that's how low we are.
The playoffs. When have the Broncos made the playoffs recently?
Oh, we're going to imitate the Mountains. Let's put a fucking, like, a diagonal curve on the side of the fucking elbow. Like, that's a fucking, like, oh my God, that's so fucking genius. But jersey design, let's put a fucking ass backwards triangle on the shoulder. That's so fucking creative. Now, admittedly, the Broncos throwback jerseys with the old school D, that shit's sick as fuck. That's like the one thing they got right. But the rest of these jerseys, it's like, how can we imitate the New England Patriots without imitating the New England Patriots? Let's just change the red to orange. Here you go. God, I fucking hate the new jerseys.
I was going to say, do you want to imitate the Patriots now? They're terrible.
No, you don't. Like, Sean Payton is like such a fucking, like, I swear to God, this guy is such a fucking loser in his mentality with this team. He's such a fucking loser.
I want them to start the year with another onside kick. Just please do it.
Now again, I'm talking all this shit and I'm going in circles. Here's the bottom line. I fucking hate Sean Payton. I think he's doing shit so ass backwards. But here's where I'm going to give him credit. What he's doing is taking a team that's basically been going through this shit for years. And he's saying, fuck it. You want me to take this over? I'm going to take this over. He did the right thing in the first year, which was, let me see what I got. He basically got rid of who he didn't like. He kept who he did like, and he's building around it. This is going to be a long-term project. But I think there's the logic of, if he took Russell Wilson as bad as he was last year and got him to 8-9, if you really believe Russell Wilson was that bad and they were still that good, and he could get rid of him and pay him to leave and take a quarterback like Bo Nix or even Zach Wilson, I think there's a realistic chance that they could repeat that success. I think there's an opportunity for Denver to be like the dark horse team where, kind of like last year, like by November, you're like, holy shit, is this team going to fucking make the wild card? Like, are they really going to be a playoff contender? And you're just not expecting it. I'm expecting those similar vibes. And I think at 5.5, that was 3 wins less than what we got last year. And Denver's strength of schedule, too. Just looking at this, they're just under 500 on strength of schedule. And they're about mid-tier in terms of having to travel on the road. Now, they do have to go to Pittsburgh, I think, they're at home against Pittsburgh week 2. So revenge game with Russ. Week 1 is Seattle. I think Denver could have a rough start, but they're my overplay.
You in Seattle week 1 again?
Yep, in Seattle.
Again? Wow. That's crazy.
So, yeah, overplay here, 2.5 units. Denver over 5.5. But I think it just comes down to the coaching. I think I have to have enough faith in Sean Payton that, like, you don't make this kind of move if you're not confident. If Russell Wilson really was that bad, I think he could just have a simple repeat. So it's kind of a numbers play. But Mansman, I mean, I know I've gone on a Broncos rant, but what's your overall thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the division, I actually have 2 plays that I think I'm going to make. Number 1, Chargers to miss the playoffs minus 118. Like, we do this all the time. Like, why are the Chargers going to be good now? Okay, Brandon Staley's gone, but this is an organization that just loses.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers are Chewbacca.
The Chargers just lose. And now, again, the East may have 3 good teams. The North may have 3 good teams. I'm not sold that the Chargers – I think the Chargers are going to have a battle for second place in this division. Like, I'm not sold on them suddenly being great. And the fact that they're basically even money to miss the playoffs, yeah, I'll take that. I'm not sold on the Chargers. Another bet I like – Las Vegas Raiders over 6.5.
Really? Okay, what the fuck? What are you thinking?
I just think, whoa, hold on. The Raiders might have Gardner Minshew at quarterback. He's better than Jimmy John or whatever the hell that other guy's name.
Oh, no, Jimmy G's gone. It's Aiden O'Connell or nothing.
Yeah, oh, yeah, the Aiden, what's his name? Aiden O'Malley. Aiden O'Toole, whatever his name is. And even with Aiden O'Connell, they were competitive. They played tough last year. I think they got better on the defensive side with Christian Wilkins. And I think Gardner Minshew could be an improvement. And you've got a coach now in Antonio Pierce. He did well last year. And they're only at 6.5. Like, I could see this team getting 7 wins. I'm not saying that they're going to make the playoffs, but 7 wins gets me a victory. I don't know. I think this Raiders team's being discounted. Let's be honest. They really only need 5 more wins because they already have 2 guaranteed against Denver, who they've never lost.
Oh, fuck you.
Still
undefeated since Peyton Manning left.
How many straight wins have the Raiders had against you now?
I think it's 10.
Jeez. 10. Right. Is this the year, Steve? Is this the year where you finally beat the Las Vegas Raiders?
I hope so. I mean, we came close once, like early in the season. I think.
Did Raiders go to Vegas?
So I'll give you a better play, and this here, folks, this is actually going to be my best bet for the AFC futures.
What?
Give me the Chargers under 8.5 wins here. 4-unit play, plus 118.
Every year, it's the same shit.
Every fucking year. And now here's the thing. It's not the Brandon Staley excuse anymore. He's gone. You brought Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman in as your new coaching staff. Okay. What's the one thing they're good at, Jason?
Throwing the ball?
No. Not at all. Do you remember Lamar throwing the ball great with Greg Roman? No. It was play, action, run, and handing it off.
That's not what the Chargers do.
What did the Chargers do in the offseason? They got rid of their best running back and replaced it with the 2 dipshits from Baltimore that Greg Roman kind of knows about. Now, to be fair, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and the tandem together, there's potential. What is Justin Herbert good for? Throwing. What's Jim Harbaugh not going to do? Let him throw the ball. I think, what gets missed with this Jim Harbaugh hiring was that Jim Harbaugh was literally the coach in college who kept coming up short. He was good up until the big moment, and then he just fell short time after time. It literally wasn't until he got a Blake Corum from Michigan who could run 200 yards a game and get 3 touchdowns where he made the big game finally.
Yeah.
And no offense.
Defense looking like?
I mean, you picked up Bud Dupree and Christian Fulton. And Denzel Perryman, the ghost of him, that's cool. The Chargers, Chris Harris retired, so I don't know if that's an improvement, but
the Chargers defense is going to be basically what it was last year, which was mediocre.
I wouldn't even say mediocre. I would say trash. Do you remember what the Raiders and Aiden O'Connell fucking did to that team? At their lowest. I remember. Why is it all of a sudden that John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh, it's Jim, I think. Jim fucking comes in and he's going to save the day for the Chargers, and it's you just let go of your best running back. Oh, by the way, you also let go of Keenan Allen, so that one target that Justin Buttfuck Herbert had. He's gone.
That's okay. They replaced him with somebody.
Did they?
Yeah. There's a guy.
DJ Chark.
Oh yeah.
Wait, hang on. Who was their pick last year they had? Quentin Johnson. That's the new number one. Mr. I can't catch fucking COVID. Quentin Johnson, the new number one wide receiver.
He's going to have a bounce back year, I heard.
No, miss me with this shit. I've had enough. Don't get me wrong. Here's the thing with the Jets. I don't think they'll be good, but you can't ever completely you can't, bet against Aaron Rodgers completely. Because if you're wrong, you're going to be dead wrong. Time after time, year after year, the Chargers have just been mediocre at best with Justin Herbert. Now Jim Harbaugh comes in and gets rid of all of his weapons, and they're going to be above 500.
Oh, let's just call it now, although I might wait to see if the line continues to go in my favor. Raiders plus 3.5 week 1 against the Chargers in LA.
I would hammer that right now.
I think I'm going to.
I would hammer that shit right now. Are you kidding? Sure shit. And it's a 4:00 game? Yeah, I would.
In LA, so no home field. There'll be more Raiders fans, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, yeah, LA? That's Raiders. That's Raiders country.
Oh, and there's the look-ahead spot with the Carolina Panthers, too. So I could see the Chargers losing week 1. And then by week 2, it's wow, both teams suck. Let's bet the Panthers. I could see this now, folks. This is going to be God. I fucking can't
I think that's a bet right there. Raiders plus 3.5 week 1. They always play close. I think the Raiders are going to be decent.
Yeah. But my big play, give me the Chargers under 8.5 here. The 4-unit play, that has to be it. I also love them to miss the playoffs too, so I completely endorse that play. Yep. In terms of division winner, it's Kansas City or nothing. I mean,
you can't bet against them.
I don't know if I like their win total per se, but their making playoffs chances aren't as good. I would wait till week 2 because I forget who Kansas City. Oh, they're playing Baltimore. I could see Baltimore winning week 1. And if Kansas City goes 0-1 to start the year, I could see those odds significantly dropping in terms of to win the division, especially if literally the Raiders or Chargers, somebody has to win. So somebody's going to go 1-0. And if the Broncos somehow go 1-0 to start the year, I can see Chiefs division odds significantly dropping from -230 to close to -130, -140. I'll play it then.
That would be some overreaction. I'd be all over that.
100%. So that's my play at the AFC West, but it's Kansas City or nothing. But my overplay, it's Denver, but really it's a default because I just don't like. I hate the Chargers. That's my under. The Raiders, I can't get on, but I
know you can. That's okay. That's your bias. So,
it's my bias, but at the same, I forget what it was with the Raiders too. There was I can't remember if it was the road. Yeah, that's what it was. The road games are what's going to kill them. They have to trap. They're number 6 in most miles they have to travel. They do not have a good schedule in terms of road games. I mean, I could pull this up real quick.
They got a toughish start. Well, they get Pittsburgh at home, which is good. At Miami is bad. I don't know, man. They only need to win 7. They play Carolina at home, Cleveland at home.
Pittsburgh. They'll lose to Cleveland.
Will they?
I mean, unless it's prime time and Deshaun.
NFC North play. I guess we'll move to the AFC North. Excuse me.
Yeah, this is where I think we're gonna fight. I just don't. I don't know how we don't fight here. I'm surprised we didn't fight with the West, but here we go. It's the AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, reigning defending division champs, plus 140 to repeat. Bengals plus 170. Cleveland 5-1, 500. Pittsburgh plus 650 to win the division. Win totals: Baltimore's at 11.5. Cincinnati 10.5. Cleveland 8.5. Pittsburgh now up to 8.5. Breaking news as of today. Odds to make the playoffs: Baltimore is minus 265. Cincinnati minus 235. Cleveland plus 138. Pittsburgh plus 186. Odds to miss the playoffs: Baltimore plus 210. Bengals plus 186. Browns to miss the playoffs minus 170. Pittsburgh to miss minus 235.
Yeah, so first off, if you're going to make I think Cleveland's going to be significantly worse because their defense pulled in metrics last year that were, I mean, their defense, when you look at the advanced numbers, was like double the next rated defense in terms of like defensive value added stats. Like their what DVOA was like double the number 2 team. I don't think their defense, even if their defense is still good, they're not doing that again. And we still have the masseuse, the
misogynist.
Yeah, the misogynist who's coming back off of surgery. I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of this Cleveland Brownies team. I think there's only one way for them to go, and it's down. But having said that, my underplay and sort of the division play I like the best here has to be Pittsburgh under 8.5. And the reason why, look at the second half of their schedule. They go through a fucking gauntlet. Let me pull it up quick and tell you the second half.
Sure. And
this is why
I'll pull some other stats.
This is why all the sharps are betting under, even though we know Pittsburgh always goes over 500. But
they are number 3 as having the worst strength of schedule. They are plus 533 with their opponent win percentage. It's actually the whole AFC North. It's Cleveland. Cleveland has the worst strength of schedule. Then it's Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Yep. Here you go. Here, ready? So this is sort of, I mean, they are, even in their first half, they have some tough games. Home against Dallas, that could be kind of tough. Home against the Jets, if you think the Jets are going to be good. But listen to their last 8 games.
Oh.
Home against Baltimore, at Cleveland on a short week, at Cincinnati, home against Cleveland, at Philly, at Baltimore, home against the Chiefs, home against the Bengals. That is a division AFC North grinded out division gauntlet. And then, oh, by the way, other than your division, you get to play the fucking Chiefs and Eagles. That's why a lot of people have them under the season.
You're not just playing your division. You're playing them twice in the last 8 weeks.
Yeah, in 8 weeks. And again, remember, those AFC North games are so grinded out. Like, I could just see the Steelers team halfway through being, like, dead. Because we know how these games go. Knuckle drag out, close games. So that's why, I mean, this is a parrot play because all the sharps are on Pittsburgh under for that reason. But, yeah, that's going to be tough.
I'm with you on this one. I'm taking Pittsburgh under 8.5. Slightly different reasons, though. Basically, here's the problem. You either have Russell Wilson or Justin Fields starting. And no offense, like, I think that there's a bit of truth with the ghost of Russell Wilson jokes. I don't think he's that good anymore. I think his best years are behind him. Although I will say, like, I think it's the same logic I heard with Denver. He's an improvement from who they had, but, like, how much of an improvement? is he really going to be able to keep them in games any different than Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett? Like, is he really going to make that much of a difference than any of those guys did? Quite frankly, I don't know, because they do have a new offensive coordinator. Oh, that's right. Pittsburgh's new offensive coordinator, none other than the one and only Arthur Smith, former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. The same Arthur Smith who you could hand a loaded Colt 45 to and give him a point-blank pumpkin to shoot, and he would still find a way to shoot himself in the fucking foot. This guy does not know how to utilize weapons. If he was handed the nuclear arsenal for the United States of America, he would blow himself up if he tried.
If he was handed the nuclear arsenal, he'd go to war with pistols, like with flintlock muskets. Like, that's what this guy would do.
And now you go from a Denver team, like with Russ, like you at least had fucking, you had Sean Payton, who's consistent and like, somewhat competent. Mike Tomlin, I'm sure, could draw up something nice for him. I mean, there was success with like Michael Vick for a short period of time, but like, do you really trust Arthur Smith to utilize the best out of either of these quarterbacks when he couldn't utilize the best out of fucking Matt Ryan or Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heineke? Like, they're just like, I literally could bunch them all up into one package, and it's like, pick your quarterback. You're not getting much of a difference here.
Forget let Russ cook, more like Russ is cooked. I think he's done. He's washed. It's over.
Yeah, and the Steelers, I know they let go of Deontay Johnson, but again, Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins, you drafted a Roman Wilson from Michigan. Like, okay, I'm not sold that you guys. The only thing I will give Steelers credit for was they stole Patrick Queen from Baltimore. I think that's going to be a significant advantage.
Is he going to throw and catch passes? Because that's their problem. No. Their problem is they got a quarterback who's washed and a quarterback who's no good.
Yeah, so I guess with that said, like, if we're both under Steeler, what's your overplay?
I don't want to pick the Ravens because I feel like there's a high chance that they're going to diminish. But I'm just not. Cincinnati is my problem. Joe Burrow was hurt again for the millionth time now. And once again, Cincinnati is basically even money to win the division when you could argue that Baltimore was the best team in football for most of the year last year. Like, they were the number one seed going into the playoffs. But now Cincinnati's basically even with Baltimore to win the division. I'd be tempted to go Baltimore over because I could see them winning 12, 13 games again. But, yeah, I'm not too confident on it.
You're going Baltimore?
Yeah, I'm not sold on Cincy, but you're probably very sold on Cincy.
I am, but it's only because I am. But I think it has more to do with the front load of the schedule compared to the back end. Listen to their first 8. Week 1, they are at home against New England. Oh, they have to go to Kansas City the week after, but then they get the Commanders, the Panthers. They're at home against the Ravens, a game they could very easily win. A team they split with against last year, I want to say. Or maybe, no, they did lose because the first game Joe Burrow got injured. So that could be a revenge spot. They then travel prime time against the New York Giants, and then they play Cleveland.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, I might have
Next 2 games is Philly and the Raiders. I just think the front load of the schedule, the Bengals could be really successful. And towards the end is where maybe it gets questionable. But, teams I think they could very easily beat. They do get the Steelers twice. They get the Chargers, and they get the Titans.
God, you get those last place schedules. It's like, God, Cincinnati plays nobody. If Joe Burrow comes back healthy, I mean, they're going to cakewalk to it. Okay, I got to endorse your play because they could be competitive even if Joe Burrow's 50%. If he comes back healthy, I mean, they're going to steamroll this total. They play nobody.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, too, something I actually really like, not compared to other sharps, I actually really loved the offensive moves they made this year. They let Joe Mixon go. They signed a Zach Moss, who had a lot of success last year with the Colts. They picked up tight end Mike Gesicki for now, which I think is an improvement on tight end. They've been drastically lacking for a long time. They signed safety Geno Stone. Safety Von Bell is returning. I think that's going to be a motivator. They drafted Amarius Mims from Georgia, offensive tackles. But from Tight End University, a.k.a. Iowa, Eric Hall. I think he's going to be a very big playmaker. I will very much well dub and say, remember the name Eric Hall. Wide receiver, Jermaine Burton from Alabama. And they got a new offensive coordinator too in Dan Pitcher. Now, why do I think that they're going to hit the over? I think they're going to beat the shit out of Cleveland. One reason. Cleveland, not only do they have the misogynist and Deshaun Watson, do you know who his new offensive coordinator is?
No.
The one and only Ken Dorsey.
Oh, God. Oh, Cleveland's going to suck. Yeah.
But even worse, say Deshaun Watson gets hurt again, or say he gets benched. Do you know who his backups are this time?
No, I forgot.
It is the ghost of Tyler Huntley and the ghost of Jameis Winston.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Their new backup running backs, Deontay Foreman and Nyheim Hines. They got Devin Bush and Jordan Hicks at linebacker, which I think will help them, but that's really in depth. I don't think they're going to be able to be on the field in the same vein. And Mike Vrabel, in case you're wondering where he went, he's a coaching consultant for the Browns now. So, that's cool, but you still have Ken Dorsey and dipshit Kevin Stefanski.
Ken Dorsey, he was terrible.
Ken Dorsey is the new offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, he could screw up. He screwed up Josh Allen. Imagine what he's going to do with a shit quarterback. He's really going to fucking.
He could fuck up a wet dream. That's how bad.
Yeah, so now I'm starting to think maybe I play a Raiders make the playoffs. Don't like the North. Maybe the Raiders are competitive, could sneak in. What do you think?
Maybe. I gave out my missed playoffs and make playoffs with Colts and Jets, so I couldn't fault you if you did do that. I'm not a fan of it. I personally would rather play. So for my division play, it's Baltimore or nothing. I'm going Baltimore plus 140. Although, here's my warning to you folks. Every year I pick an AFC North division winner, and I always say it's between the Bengals and the Ravens. The quarterback I pick gets hurt, and then they lose the division. And then the other team comes in and wins it later in the season. So I have a feeling I'm picking Baltimore. Lamar's going to get hurt. Joe Burrow's going to come in and win the division. So that's why I'm playing the over.
Yeah, that's why I can't endorse these future plays. Even no offense, right now, the week one lines, Cincinnati, a 9.5 point home favorite against New England. Even that, I don't know how healthy Joe Burrow is going to be. I'm not laying 9.5 at this point.
And by the way, just to remember, they played the Browns week one, I think it was last year. They got their asses kicked. It was 24-3 or some nonsense like that.
Bad. That is one thing. They're normally bad early in the season, even with Joe Burrow.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, too. If you really want to fade the Browns, you have to fade Deshaun Watson because on paper, here's the problem with Deshaun Watson. On paper, he looks good. He only started 6 games, but he went 5-1. I think a lot of people.
That's because their defense was all world, though.
And I also think a lot of people forget he was responsible for over 12 turnovers in those 6 games.
Yeah, they were.
Deshaun Watson's not good anymore. He is trash.
No,
he needs to
go get a massage somewhere.
That's one way to put it.
So yeah, wow, there we go.
But yeah,
finished.
God, yeah, we didn't. Again, every time we say we're gonna fight, we don't end up fighting. Somehow we ended up agreeing on like at least
We
one.
fought a little bit. We fought about the Raiders a little bit, but no, we're getting to the point. We've been doing this. We've been doing this so much. I feel like we're just starting to think the same way. Like before, when like you were a donkey and I was sharp, we fight a lot more. But now it's like we end up thinking the same way so often. So
yeah, maybe. God, but I don't know. But let's recap though. So we start with the AFC East. We're both fading the Bills, aka we're going to war against McDermott Stan.
Yeah,
and we're picking Miami. Division winner for the South. I'm going Houston. Mansman, I think you're following suit.
Yeah. My real play there is, and this is one of our disagreements, Colts under 8.5.
Gotcha. And I got Colts to make the playoffs, not necessarily on the over, but I got them to make the playoffs. Although it probably makes sense to pick them, but I just like the odds better on them to win and make the playoffs. AFC West, Kansas City to win the division. We deferred on the Vegas Raiders, but I got Chargers under 8.5 as my best play. Broncos over 5.5, minus 150.
Can't endorse that.
And finally, for the North, I got Baltimore to win division, Bengals over 10.5, Pittsburgh under 8.5.
Yeah, I think I could see Cleveland and Pittsburgh going under, but I think I probably have to go Pittsburgh due to the difficulties of that last end of year stretch. It's gonna be really tough.
So Mike Tomlin will finally have a losing NFL season for the first time in his career, and then they'll finally fire the fucker because it's weird because I said this at the end of the postseason last year. I was like, Mike Tomlin has to go. And not for the sake of the Steelers. Mike Tomlin has to go for the sake of Mike Tomlin. Like, he needs to go somewhere fresh.
Feels like the same with Buffalo, buddy, that it's just a little bit stagnant. You know what I mean? Like, it's been good. It's not that Tomlin's a bad coach, and I think he could get a job somewhere else, but he's been there a while. They're kind of in this rut of just not very good. I think they need a new direction. I agree.
And Sean McDermott Stan, a.k.a. the Taliban enthusiast, yeah, I think he needs to go too.
Yeah. They had a good run. They ran into Kansas City. They can't beat Kansas City. So you can't beat Kansas City. That's, it's like it's that simple. You have a team that runs the conference, and if you can't beat them, it's like Miami. It's the same thing with Miami. Miami's really good too. They can't beat Buffalo. So,
yeah,
like last year, if they were playing at home, they would have had a great chance to advance in the playoffs. Instead, they go to Kansas City week 1 and get, demolished in the cold.
Yeah, it's almost too predictable now, and it's like there really is no God, what the fuck's the word? They're really, there's no like fucking variation. There's no real change. It's like it's the same shit, different day in a sense.
But that's good. That means we should make money. If it's predictable, we should make money.
We should, and I hope we do. Because I got 20 units on the fucking AFC. So,
all right, guys. Well, I guess that ends our AFC video. Like I said, next week, it will be the UFC pay-per-view.
Yes, sir. Next week we're coming in for UFC 303 Poirier versus Makhachev or some fucking Khabib brother dickhead. You know who we're going with already, folks. But with that said, Spaceman Sam will be joining us for that episode, hopefully. And after that, we will come back with our NFC futures the week after. Make sure you check us out on X at x.com/DeGents podcast. We are on YouTube as well. The Spotify page, as always, will be updated with the most recent episodes. I am Steve Big Bucks Beta.
Money Management signing off.
As always, once again, make sure you go win that motherfucking money. Good night, you guys.